Hey guys, so obviously Halo Infinite had its gameplay reveal this week, so I thought I'd give my impressions and kind of just throw my hat in the ring and my thoughts on the reveal, seeing as basically everyone's doing it. So obviously these are just going to be my impressions. I think it goes without saying, but I'll reiterate anyway that obviously these are impressions and not my actual thoughts on the game. A guy playing on super low difficulty in a clearly scripted section, for like 2 minutes. It's obviously not me making a final stance on the game. I mean, I remember when Doom came out, Doom 2016, and I was like, man, I can't wait to see these reviews rip into it, and it was obviously a super good game, and since then it's gone on to be one of my favorite first-person shooters. Same thing with Titanfall 2, I expected that campaign to be awful, and again, it's one of the greats. So obviously, I'm just reacting to what we saw and what I think the direction they're going in. And obviously, I'll reevaluate when I get my hands on the actual game. So I guess I'll just start off with the art direction, and then we'll maybe talk about the story and such, and then we'll kind of talk about the gameplay a little bit at the end. Yeah, so these are obviously just my impressions. In terms of the art direction, I think it's a step up over 4 and 5. I also don't love it. I think there are times where it looks really impressive, and then there are times where it looks really off, like it's unfinished. Also, the cartoonier look, the plasticier look, I'm just not really a fan of that per se. Obviously, I think if anything's going to change between now and then, it's some of the effects and some of the art. Obviously, Halo 5 looked like a very different game in the beta stage and all the stuff leading up to the launch, and looked very different when we got it at launch, so it kind of looked worse, honestly, though. So I'm not sure what the deal is going to be with Infinite. I imagine it will look different a little bit. I don't know if it will be a better different or worse different, but I just, in terms of the style and the direction that they're going for, I think it looks impressive at times, but ultimately the style, it's not quite there for me. Not where I would take it. Also, why does every game now need hit markers on the enemies? I hate hit markers in a campaign. Multiplayer, they're okay. But I just can't stand it. It takes me out of the experience. Now, some games it's okay for, it doesn't bother me in every game, but more often than not with a campaign, especially Halo, I think it takes away from the sound of the game, the way it feels. There's just something about, hitting an enemy and having a big X appear as opposed to just smacking him in the face and having him die. To me, it kind of just is distracting. It's cartoony, and I don't like it. It's something that I complain about in COD. It's something I complain about in Halo. It's something I complain about in Doom even. Like, every game now needs hit markers, and I don't understand why. What's so cool about, having a giant X appear when you hit something? In terms of the story elements, obviously we don't know a ton right now, but personally, I'm a little worried about the story. I talked a little bit about this in my things I wanted to see in Halo Infinite video that I did way back, but I think kind of just nuking Halo 5 story, basically just retconning it almost and being like, hey, we're in the future now, and that happened, and we're kind of starting from scratch, isn't exactly a good idea or a good direction, or at least what I want to see. Now, obviously, I kind of hate Halo 5 story. I don't think many people enjoyed it, so I understand why they're trying to go in a different direction. At this point, Halo 5 and the whole Halo story is so bogged down in, comics and books and supplementary material that it's kind of hard for just the average person to follow along, and it's so complicated, and it's just hard to enjoy. So, I understand trying to simplify it and maybe start from scratch. Halo 5 didn't even really end on a cliffhanger. It just kind of came to an abrupt ending. It was like, oh, we're done now, and kind of not getting to follow that through and see where that story goes. It's going to be a little bit jarring, I think, just to kind of, when you play them from start to finish. Halo 5 doesn't really have a place in the story now. I mean, you play Halos 1, 2, and 3. All three kind of flow together, create a nice 3-act story. ODST was kind of a nice side story. Reach served as both a prequel and the great finale in terms of the Bungie era. Halo 4 was a good story, and then Halo 5 kind of just was not good. In terms of 343's story, it's all going to be disjointed. I mean, between 4 and 5, there were enough it was jarring enough. Now kind of retconning that and going, soft retconning, soft reboot back to the square one, ground zero. I just don't know if this is the direction. I think it needed a bit of a more delicate approach, kind of figuring out that in between of we're going to continue Halo 5 story, but we're going to try to drop a little bit at the dead weight in a natural way, and also kind of fulfill that story, at least, finish the story you're telling, this trilogy, before kind of starting anew, the same way that, Bungie kind of wrapped their story up before 343 took over. So other than that, I mean, we really don't have much to go on with the story. Obviously, the Banished look like they're going to be here. I don't know what the plan is with the Prometheans right now, if they're just going to forget about them, or if they're going to have a role. I don't know if the Flood are going to be in this game. I'd be, kind of mixed on whether the Flood should make a return or not. In terms of the voice acting, though, I don't know. I feel like I'm the only one that's mentioned this or saw this, but to me, the voice acting kind of felt a little over the top, a little aggressive almost. I feel like that might be a overcorrection from Halo 5, which voice acting kind of felt like a little stale and uninvested at times, probably because the script was so bad they didn't really understand what their character was. It's hard to bring that emotion and kind of do a really good job with the voice acting if there's no real strong direction with the story. So I felt like, though, this time, the voice acting was so aggressive and so, over the top. Both our banished antagonist, and the pilot kind of both had this, really over the top acting that I don't know if everyone acts like that, it's going to kind of be maybe a little aggressive, I guess is the word I would choose. In terms of the Banished, I mean, I've always been a little mixed on the Banished. On one hand, it's kind of cool that we have this covenant, but if you threw it through like a chop saw kind of thing, like a rough, rugged outlaw covenant kind of thing. On the other hand, I think it's a little contrived that there's a group of covenant secretly out and hiding that's, as powerful as the covenant was in their height of power. It's just one of those things that I worry we're just going to kind of go around and around in a circle forever. Just, up the covenant, you stop the covenant, and you stop the Flood. Up, here's more covenant, more Flood, go stop them. From now until I'm, dead. And they're still making these Halo games, and they're, soft rebooting it for the 5th time. But yeah, I mean, obviously the story details, we don't really know that much right now, and I'm willing to, hold off judgment. I just don't think, forgetting about Halo 5 and just kind of leaving that in the past is the best choice. So now we're going to talk about gameplay, which I would argue is the most important thing when I look at a Halo game. And truthfully, guys, this was the most disappointing part. I mean, the art style, it's alright, we'll see. The story, hard to tell. I mean, we'll see. The gameplay, to me, just looked bland, and the reveals were almost everything I was worried about. So hear me out. Hopefully, obviously, could be the funnest Halo game out there. I could like it more than the original Halo trilogy. I don't know right now. I don't have my hands on it. But in terms of what they revealed, the direction it's going, I'm just not a fan. Let's start with the fact that it is open world. I really hate that fact that this game is going to be open world. I know some people are really excited about it, but to me, I'm just so tired of every game being open world. I'm tired of every game trying to drag your playtime out. When you develop a game, they say, what's the expression that 10 seconds of fun can be dragged out to 10 hours of fun. If you can create a 10-second loop of fun, you can create a 10-hour game. Notice they don't say 30-hour game, because every combat loop kind of has has a bit of a shelf life, I guess you could say. It has a certain length until that loop kind of starts to get boring. I don't think, if you go back to the original Halo trilogy and you think about Combat Evolved, do you think an extra 10 levels on that game would make it a better game? No. If anything, they could have trimmed it down a little bit. I mean, there's only so many times that you can, battle a group of elites and grunts in a room and have it be still engaging and fun. I mean, after X amount of hours, it starts to get old. And so cutting it there is where you want to do it. I think, if this game is a 15-hour game, a 20-hour game, 25, 30 hours, I mean, God forbid it's anything above 30 hours. I just don't think Halo's combat loop can support that. I just don't think, Halo has always had, it's free, but it's scripted, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this throughout the video. I don't think an open world setting is necessarily how to fix it. You can have more open level designs, right? That's fine. Some of Halo's best levels are when they open up the design. Going throughout the world, finding collectibles, doing side missions. I just don't really feel like that's part of Halo. On top of that, there's other issues I had. One of the things I'm a little worried about is the amount of weapons in the game. Halo has always had a very defined weapon sandbox. And if you look at the sandbox in this game, I mean, it looks like, based on the fact that they're naming the weapons outside of, their normal names, it's not just shotgun. The shotgun actually has, like, a name. That makes me believe that there's going to be more than one shotgun. And then when you start doing that, the distinction between each weapon and its role in the sandbox starts to become kind of less clear and less defined. And I feel like, again, that's, Halo not really understanding its own roots, trying to change to fit what the industry standards are. People will expect more guns equals better. People don't want to have a game where you only have 20, 25 guns, or even 15, which I don't understand, because the more guns you have, the less defined each weapon is. Even if it's a little bit different, it doesn't have that really distinct role. Now, I'm not saying we have to go back to Combat Evolved or 8 guns, but if you do look at Combat Evolved, each weapon has such a distinct and a defined and important role in the game. And even Bungie, as they went along, this became less true. I mean, you play Halo Reach, there's a fistful of guns in there that you just never use. Plasma Repeater. That is something I was worried about. I think Halo 5 had that issue, at least in the multiplayer realm. I mean, we had like 10 battle rifle variants, if not more. I mean, I can't even remember. I haven't played Halo 5 in a while. But there were so many by the end. It's like the Halo 2 battle rifle, the Halo Reach, the Halo CE Magnum was in the game. Why? Look at the Magnum, think about what you want the Magnum to be, right? In this sandbox, in this role, and then make it that, and then leave it like that. And I think that's a bit of a problem that 343, if you have, the DMR, the battle rifle, the Magnum, they can all coexist. The sniper, the assault rifle, the shotgun. I mean, these are your bread and butter weapons that are going to kind of make up your sandbox. And then you have, your fistful Covenant weapons, and you can have a few other things, but eventually you kind of cap out, at least in terms of Halo and its sandbox and gameplay style. It can only support so many, and they seem to be completely oblivious to this. And we saw it in Halo 5's multiplayer, and I think we're going to see it in Halo Infinite's campaign and multiplayer, and that's frustrating. In terms of the gameplay, I'm also a little bit worried that it's gonna overemphasize freedom and maximizing the amount of choices the player has at the cost of structure. Now, games kind of toe the line between structure, where there's a set of mechanics and rules, and the goal is to use those set of mechanics and rules in order to overcome a challenge, and freedom, and the ability to kind of go off and do what you want, right? And these kind of, it's the, yin and yang of the gameplay design. Now, different franchises toe the line in different directions and kind of give the player different choices. So, for example, Far Cry is a great game. I love Far Cry 3, and I like Far Cry 4. I think Far Cry 3 has the better story by far, and I think while Far Cry 4 tightened up some of the gameplay mechanics, I think its story was a lot less focused and artistic. In terms of the gameplay style that Far Cry offers, is it's so focused on giving the player freedom. You can use all these weapons, all these gadgets, explosives to do whatever you want. You can do silent style gameplay. You can go in guns a-blazing. You have all these options in the gameplay realm. The problem is with Far Cry gameplay is the player gets very comfortable using a set of weapons and style, and then they stick to that those weapons, that style of gameplay. You can play through an entire Far Cry campaign without using a sniper rifle. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It's Far Cry's identity, it's its formula, and I love it for that, right? But the problem is that doesn't work for every game. There are other games, Halo, that it doesn't really work for, because when you give the player a set of every choice that can be used all the time, they're going to just kind of find what they like, and they're going to stick to that. If you look at Halo, you have to use each weapon's strength and weaknesses to its advantage against certain enemies. For example, the sniper rifle doesn't work on Flood in the original Halo trilogy. Let's just talk about Combat Evolved for right now, just because it's kind of the simplest iteration of Halo. So you have the sniper rifle, and it's amazing at taking out elites at a range, right? It's practically useless at taking out grunts. I mean, sure, one-shot them all, but you only have so much ammo. You don't want to be, popping, 4 or 5, upwards of that sniper rifle rounds into grunts, because it's, a waste of your bullets. Jackals, they can handle if you aim really well in that little hand, right, that is exposed behind their shield. But it's not great because, again, they're mostly shielded, so unless you're hitting the head or that hand, it doesn't work great. But it's actually great at taking out hunters if you can, especially if you're far away. It's great at taking out elites, and it's a great long range weapon. So you see that it has certain enemies and ranges that it's good at. You can do that for a variety of different weapons in the game. The assault rifle, people say it's underpowered, and it's a little underpowered. I think it could have used a little juice, but it's great at taking out grunts, mopping up grunts in close quarters, and even, like lower ranking elites in close quarters with its massive 60 round magazine. So it has that role. It's why, people say that the noob combo, the plasma pistol combo, or the plasma pistol battle rifle combo in later games is kind of overpowered, and it's kind of the obvious choice. But what people don't understand is, yes, it makes taking out elites super easy, right? Taking out elites with the noob combo is super great and efficient, but you sacrifice your ability to kind of take out other types of enemies, especially in the later games when you just don't have that much battle rifle ammo, right? I mean, in Halo 2, what are you going to do? Shoot every grunt with 3 rounds of the battle rifle? 1 if you get the headshot, but you don't always, get the headshot. You're going to burn through that battle rifle ammo pretty fast. And I guess even if you wanted to stick in Halo Combat Evolved here, the pistol's good at taking grunts out at mid-range, but in close quarters, you can get overwhelmed. I know I sound like a noob when I say that, but if you have the pistol and, you're up against a whole grunt squad in close quarters, I mean, there's 3 elites there too, let's just say. If you hold down the pistol, by the time you charge it, release it, switch your weapon, shoot the elite in the head, and switch back, it's not easy. So, I mean, even though a singular elite basically is now super easy to take out with an EMP headshot, you're making sacrifices. The plasma pistol isn't good against basically anything else. It doesn't help against Flood, it doesn't help against grunts, and you're using up a whole slot just to take out elite shields. Elites are often your main adversary, though, right? They're probably the biggest problem in every encounter. So, you have to, there's give and take. That now, yeah, the elite shields can take out with ease, but at the cost of an entire weapon slot. Halo uses these strengths, weaknesses, enemy strength weaknesses, and different environments and different situations in order to create, problems for the player to solve. And again, this is where, if you have too many choices, and we don't know for sure if Infinite's going to give us how many choices and how Infinite's going to be designed, but it feels like they're emphasizing freedom, right? Oh, look how big our play space is. Oh, look at how many different things you can use. Look, we have grappling hooks and things and fancy mechanics and stuff. But if the weapon design, if there are too many weapons and it's not designed about, having that structure, you're going to lose what kind of made Halo fun and unique, and it's just going to devolve into another modern FPS game. And that's really where I'm kind of going with this. How about this? So I'm gonna describe a game to you guys, and I want you guys to take a guess at which game I'm describing, right? It's an open world game. There are some shared world aspects. You go around, you take out enemies, you collect loot, color-based loot, and upgrade your character as you go. You have light RPG mechanics in terms of dialogue options and outfitting your character. However, they're not super intense. So you get this color-based loot, you upgrade your character, shared world, open world. There's plenty of side missions to do. It updates every week with new side missions and new exclusive gear that you can only get for a limited time offer. It also has a PvP experience that shares progression between the campaign and the PvP. You use the same character between the two. I guarantee you all have different answers because I just described 99% of modern games to come out. I call it the unigenre. It's a theory I have about the direction of gaming where everything is kind of, devolving into this one singular style game. It doesn't matter if it's Destiny, The Division, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry. I mean, I could, go on. These games are just becoming very samey, and it's to the point now where a new game gets announced and I'm not even excited or at all because I'm like, I have like 5 games just like that. They all want you to play really long amounts of time. They all want to give you lots of progression, loot, and freedom. Because that's what can keep people playing, and that's most casuals, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I mean, most people that go to the store and pick up a game and just to play it on the weekends, they just want to mess around and have freedom. It's why GTA is so popular, because you can just go and do whatever you want in the world, and people find that entertaining. Now, it's not that I don't find this entertaining. I just feel like it has its place in the medium, but the other half of the medium is getting ignored. The half where you have to, master a sandbox, understand all the pieces in play. It's a chess game. I love Halo for that, and I think it's a shame that I feel like I'm theorizing here. I mean, we don't know that much, but I feel like it's kind of going in that other direction, and more games aren't giving me that experience, and I have to, my options become thinner and thinner as everyone wants to be the next big open world game that gets you playing for 100 hours. I guess I can touch on a few other things. I mean, sprint's back. That's exactly what I didn't want. When they land on the ring and they just, at first they're not sprinting and you're like, up, we could be okay. And then they break into a sprint just a little quick, just to almost look at the camera and wink and say, that's right, sprint's back. More advanced mobility. I don't understand why mapping buttons on a controller to do something is so important. Favin has talked about this so much with sprint, clamber, advanced mobility in Halo. His work on it is honestly amazing. If you got, I'm sure you guys know him, but if you don't, definitely check him out. He describes so much of it, the stuff he understands, has such a great grasp on the Halo sandbox. And I feel like people don't realize how detrimental these things are to Halo. It just hurts the way the game is designed so much. And I think it's so frustrating because I feel like, when 343 is sitting down to design this game, they're looking at it and they're saying, all right, in 2020, when a customer walks into, Walmart or Target or whatever, and they go, hey, there's the new Halo. I got to pick that up. What do they expect to be in that box? And they say, open world. They say 20 plus hours of gameplay. They say they got to be able to sprint. They say, oh, we need more than one of each weapon. We need a lot of different weapons, and we need different variants of these weapons. Okay? What else do they expect? Well, they expect an upgrade system. Don't think I didn't see that on the map. You bumper over and you got upgrades. Upgrades don't belong in Halo. Halo has always had a more subtle progression kind of through the game. Through game design, not through arbitrary you get reload speed faster and extra damage and you can carry more weapons or whatever. But nope, people expect that now. So we got to put it in there. People expect mobility options. So we got sprint, we got mobility, we got upgrades, we got open world, we got light RPG mechanics, we got lots of freedom gameplay that you can take out enemies in whichever way you want, regardless of strengths and weaknesses. And ta-da! And now we can sit down and start designing our game with these limitations in mind. And you just can't build a Halo game from those experiences. And it's frustrating because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to pick up the game. They're going to play it for a little bit. and they're going to move on because the next big game's going to come out. And the people like me that love Halo and want to see it succeed and want a true Halo experience, we're just being ignored. And this isn't to say that you guys have to agree with me, that you guys can't like a lot of the changes coming. Obviously, people define Halo differently, and Halo means something to everyone in a different way. And I'm not here to tell you you're wrong for not, for if you like the direction of the game. I mean, and at the end of the day, I still have the original Halo trilogy, and it's still playable in 2020, more so than it had been actually, 5 or 6 years ago, which is awesome. I mean, it's awesome that my favorite franchise, is still fully playable. So I don't want to tramp on your parade if you looked at the reveal and you said, yeah, this is what I want. I'm super excited. I'm super pumped. That's awesome. I'm honestly super happy for you. At some point, I guess I just eventually have to realize that Halo isn't offering me what I want and look elsewhere for it. That's not to say there weren't some things that I liked, and, it's hard to tell. On one hand, this guy's playing super scripted, normal difficulty, clearly, if not easy. I mean, he was just mowing these guys down. And there were little things I also noticed, too, that I liked. Like, the brute charged at him and, shot him in the foot, and he stumbled. Awesome. That's what I want, not just where you shoot them, though, but with what, and not just having crit points for enemies, but also, specific types of damage, weaknesses. But it's possible that it's all there, and we just don't know it, because at the end of the day, most people don't watch a gameplay reveal and go, oh man, that looks so fun, as, the guy dies 3 times on legendary difficulty. I'm not saying that it can't all work out in the end. I'm not saying that this, it's possible. It's still technically possible. I'm not going to predict it, obviously, but it's possible that this is my favorite Halo game ever, hiding behind here. Yeah, I doubt it, but it's possible. So I don't want to jump to conclusions. I'm just, pointing out things that I noticed. And obviously there's still a reason for optimism. It just isn't what I wanted. I mean, we haven't even seen the multiplayer reveal. It's possible that I love this game's multiplayer. Again, I doubt it with all the advanced mobility stuff. But it's possible. It is possible. We don't know what they're doing over there. So yeah, so that's kind of most of it. I mean, this video is kind of long enough. It's a bit of a ramble. This is why I write scripts normally, guys, because I just kind of get lost in examples and things. Thank you guys for listening to my ramblings. My Halo 5 ranking video, I started working on it, started replaying through Halo 5. It's going very slowly because, I have to play Halo 5. And obviously, hopefully, I'll cover a little more Infinite in the future. I'll definitely, probably still pick it up at launch, even if I'm a little bit less excited for it than I was. As new details become available, I might make another, update if something big happens and we have big news. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. Check out my Halo ranking videos if you like stuff like that. If not, thank you. Bye.